Lieutenant Sarah Falcon Turner stepped off the transport van and onto the SEAL training base, the gravel crunching beneath her boots with each careful step. The morning sun reflected off the metal barracks and training towers, painting sharp shadows across the compound. She adjusted the straps on her backpack, feeling the weight not as a burden, but as a constant reminder of the challenge she had chosen. Whispers flitted across the yard as veteran candidates glanced at her, some with curiosity, others with disbelief. A woman? Here? Among the Navy SEAL candidates, a place where strength, endurance, and sheer stubbornness had always been measured in the company of men, she was an anomaly. Falcon, huh? One of the recruits murmured to another, a smirk tugging at his lips. Heard she was some kind of intelligence analyst. Think she can survive the first week? Sarah's eyes scanned the yard without returning the smirk. She didn't need to prove anything with words. Observation was her weapon, and in silence, she had already begun studying routines, measuring weaknesses, and mapping opportunities. The SEAL training ground was a controlled chaos, each instructor and candidate playing a role in the crucible designed to break the unprepared. And she intended to emerge, not just unbroken, but transformed. Her mind flashed briefly to her years in military intelligence, where she had analyzed patterns, intercepted communications, and predicted enemy movements. Those skills, once applied to digital maps and satellite feeds, could be translated here on land, sea, and air, if she chose to see the patterns. She had watched the base from afar for weeks before arriving, noting drill schedules, observing how instructors disciplined their recruits, and noting subtle rivalries that could later be leveraged. The nickname Falcon had stuck during her intelligence days. Sharp-eyed, silent, precise. Here, it would become her identity, one that no obstacle could shake. The first instructor she encountered was Master Chief Reynolds, a grizzled veteran, whose tattoos traced entire sleeves along forearms and whose eyes carried decades of field experience. He looked her up and down, frowning slightly, before letting out a low whistle. Never seen a woman walk into this place and look like she owns it, he muttered under his breath, not loud enough for the recruits nearby. Sarah met his gaze. Calmly, "I'm not here to own it," she said quietly. "I'm here to survive it and excel." He chuckled softly, the sound rough but not unkind. "Bold words," he said. "We'll see if they hold up." Her first hours were spent acclimating. She walked through the barracks, noting bunks, gear storage, and supply points, filing everything mentally. Every glance she cast measured danger and opportunity. She observed candidates performing warm-up exercises, noting the strongest, the fastest, the loudest, but also those who moved without thought, those whose overconfidence might be their downfall. During lunch, she sat alone, as most new arrivals did. A few curious candidates approached, their questions thinly veiled attempts to test her confidence. "You really think you can make it here?" one asked, tossing a piece of bread into the air before catching it with a grin. "I don't think," Sarah replied evenly. "I plan." That answer earned a few raised eyebrows and a few rolled eyes. Some laughed nervously, dismissing her, but others, a quiet few, watched, sensing a mind operating on a different frequency than the rest of the rookies. By mid-afternoon, she was called to the first briefing. A large map of the training grounds was displayed, pins marking points for navigation drills, obstacle courses, and tactical simulations. Instructors outlined the grueling weeks ahead: survival training, maritime navigation, combat swimming, weapons drills, and endurance testing, all leading to a series of field exercises that would ultimately determine who had the mental and physical resilience to be a SEAL. The briefing was intense, and many rookies scribbled notes or whispered to each other, doubting their own abilities. Sarah absorbed every word, her mind weaving scenarios in real time. She imagined each obstacle, each drill, and considered how she would approach them not with brute strength alone, but with strategy, timing, and precision. Later, she was paired with a small group for initial conditioning exercises. They started with a warm-up run around the base, followed by push-ups, sit-ups, and sprints. Her body had been conditioned over years of prior military training, yet she still felt the familiar burn in her muscles as her lungs fought for air. Despite the fatigue, she maintained focus, noting the form and pace of her fellow trainees. One candidate, a tall, broad-shouldered man with a constant scowl, attempted to intimidate her, towering over her as they performed push-ups side by side. "Don't expect anyone to carry you through this," he growled. "I don't need carrying," she said, her voice calm, measured. "But I can show you how to move efficiently if you want to finish alive." The words earned a scoff, but she noted the flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. Doubt, she knew, was both a weakness and a tool. She filed it away. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the base, Sarah took a solitary walk along the perimeter fence. The sea breeze carried the scent of salt and diesel, mingling with the faint iron tang of sweat from the day's exertions. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting the sounds and smells anchor her to the reality of this environment. Every moment here would test her body, mind, and resolve, but she welcomed it. Returning to the barracks, she began preparing her gear. For the next day, boots polished, straps adjusted, and equipment double-checked. Every detail mattered. In her previous career, overlooking one piece of information could cost lives. Here, one misstep could do the same. Her reputation would not come from rash actions or loud words. It would come from precision, preparation, and quiet excellence. That night, as the base settled into an uneasy quiet, Sarah lay on her bunk and stared at the ceiling. Around her, the snores of exhausted trainees filled the air, punctuated by distant footsteps of instructors making their rounds. She thought about the challenges ahead, the physical trials, the mental obstacles, and the social dynamics of proving herself in a male-dominated environment. She thought about her nickname, Falcon, and smiled faintly. She was already observing, already calculating, and already preparing for the moment when the SEALs would realize that precision, intellect, and calm could strike harder than sheer force. By the time she drifted into sleep, a quiet determination had taken root. The journey would be brutal, the obstacles relentless, and the skepticism relentless. Yet she welcomed it. She had chosen this path, and every step, every glance, every calculated move would carry her closer to mastery. In silence, she was already marking her territory, already preparing to show the Navy SEALs exactly why they called her Falcon. The first day had ended, but the real test was just beginning, and Lieutenant Sarah Turner Falcon was ready. The morning air was crisp and biting, a sharp contrast to the heat that would build in the hours to come. Lieutenant Sarah Falcon Turner stood at the edge of the obstacle course, her boots planted firmly on the gravel, her eyes scanning. The towering walls, rope swings, mud pits, and balance beams. She exhaled slowly, letting her mind settle into the familiar rhythm of assessment and calculation. Around her, the other SEAL candidates fidgeted, muttering under their breath, nerves buzzing like electricity in the air. "All right, rookies," barked Master Chief Reynolds, his voice cutting through the murmurs. "This course will separate the prepared from the unprepared. You'll need strength, endurance, and strategy. Fail any part, and the consequences are yours to bear." Falcon's gaze swept the course. Every obstacle was a problem to solve, every wall a challenge to analyze. She had trained her body, yes, but she had trained her mind even more. Strength could get you over the wall. Intelligence could get you over it faster, safer, and without unnecessary exertion. The whistle blew, shrill and sharp. Candidates lunged forward. Some sprinted blindly, relying on brute force, heaving themselves over walls with arms shaking. Others hesitated, calculating, only to stumble when hesitation turned into fear. Falcon moved with deliberate precision, using techniques learned from observation, prior training, and instinct. She scaled walls with minimal wasted motion, swung across ropes with fluid grace, and navigated the balance beams as though she were walking across a tightrope over a canyon. A burly candidate named Jackson tried to push past her on the rope swing. "Step aside, rookie," he growled, using his bulk as intimidation. Falcon didn't flinch. She adjusted her grip, shifted her weight, and swung past him in a seamless motion. Jackson stumbled, caught off guard, his pride bruised more than his body. The course was brutal. Mud sucked at their boots, walls scraped flesh, and each obstacle demanded a mental decision as much as a physical one. Falcon found herself analyzing the weaknesses of each obstacle, choosing angles, leveraging momentum, and conserving energy. Every step, every jump, every pull was a calculation. By mid-course, a storm of fatigue swept through the group. Muscles burned, lungs gasped, and spirits wavered. Some candidates fell behind, muttering complaints, blaming the course, blaming instructors, blaming anything but their own lack of preparation. Falcon felt the burn too, but her focus never wavered. Pain was data, she reminded herself. Exhaustion was information. She moved through both with the precision of a hawk, eyes sharp, mind alert, instincts guiding every motion. At a particularly difficult rope climb, Jackson again tried to overtake her, sneering, clearly trying to intimidate her and regain lost face. Falcon's eyes narrowed. She didn't age verbally. She didn't need to. She timed her climb, used a subtle shift of her wrist and legs, and reached the top with efficiency that left Jackson gasping and flailing below. The instructors noticed, exchanging glances that spoke volumes. The final stretch of the obstacle course was the most punishing. A high wall followed by a mud crawl, and then a series of narrow balance beams suspended over a shallow pool of water. Falcon assessed each element before moving. She vaulted the wall with a clean, practiced motion, landing lightly, then dropped into the mud crawl with careful breathing to conserve energy and avoid panic. On the balance beams, she measured every step, every lean of her body, adjusting instinctively for sway. When she reached the end, her boots hit solid ground almost silently, her chest rising and falling steadily. Master Chief Reynolds clapped, his hands sharply. "Turner," he barked, pointing. "Step forward." Falcon approached, steady as ever. "Your technique was unconventional," Reynolds said, eyes scanning her from head to toe. "But it worked. You finished faster than expected and without injury. Impressive." The praise was tempered, though. Reynolds was a veteran, and veterans respected results, but they also valued tradition. "But remember," he continued, "this course isn't just about finishing. It's about the way you move, adapt, and lead under stress. You've got the skill, but skill alone won't make you a SEAL." Falcon inclined her head slightly. She had expected neither praise nor disdain to alter her strategy. The course had been a first test, a measure of not just strength, but analysis, composure, and adaptability. She had passed, but the real trials were still ahead. During a short break, candidates huddled, murmuring about her performance. Some were resentful, others curious. Jackson, red-faced and frustrated, muttered something under his breath. Falcon didn't respond. She took the moment to observe, studying patterns of fatigue, morale, and behavior among the group. Every interaction, every glance, every whispered comment was data, and she stored it meticulously for later. The afternoon brought a series of mental challenges, navigation exercises, problem-solving under time constraints, and rapid decision-making drills. The instructors deliberately increased the pressure, monitoring not just physical capability, but cognitive resilience. Falcon thrived here. Her analytical background allowed her to process information quickly, predicting likely outcomes and choosing the path that minimized risk while maximizing efficiency. At one point, the team had to extract a hostage from a simulated hostile environment. Most candidates panicked under time pressure, arguing over who should lead and who should follow. Falcon stepped in, calmly issuing concise instructions. Her teammates hesitated, some scoffing at the authority of a newcomer, but the logic of her plan left no room for argument. They followed, and the mission succeeded with minimal error. The instructors nodded, noting her leadership potential in high-stress environments. As evening approached, fatigue settled heavily across the training ground. Muscles throbbed, minds reeled, and morale wavered. Yet Falcon's movements remained precise, deliberate, and efficient. She had learned not to fight fatigue directly, but to anticipate it, to conserve energy, and to let her mind guide her body. She had proven that strategy and composure could rival sheer strength, and that a calm mind could make a greater impact than brute force. After dinner, in the barracks, Falcon reviewed the day silently. She mapped the weaknesses she had observed in other candidates, noted the tendencies of instructors, and began imagining how she would approach the upcoming weeks. Some of her peers tried to talk strategy, but she mostly listened, giving careful input only when necessary. Her silence was not arrogance, it was observation. By nightfall, exhaustion pulled at her eyelids, but she forced herself to write in a small journal recording observations, techniques, and lessons learned. Every detail mattered. She knew that in the field, the smallest miscalculation could be fatal. Here, in training, she could refine those calculations safely, but only if she paid attention to every nuance, every pattern, every subtle signal. As the barracks settled into quiet, Falcon lay on her bunk, reflecting on the day. The obstacle course had tested more than her body. It had tested her mind, her planning, her patience, and her composure. She had faced intimidation, physical challenge, and mental strain, and she had passed with precision. The nickname Falcon felt more like reality now, a reflection of the observer, the strategist, and the silent force that moved with deadly grace. She closed her eyes, already envisioning the challenges of tomorrow. Endurance runs, marathon drills, and field exercises designed to push limits and expose weaknesses. Every obstacle would be another puzzle, every instructor another variable. And she would solve them all, not with loud defiance, but with calculated, precise action. Sleep came slowly, but it came, and with it, the quiet certainty that the first real test had been passed, not with brute force, not with arrogance, but with the mind of a predator and the heart of a warrior. Falcon had arrived, and the SEALs would soon learn exactly why they had given her that name. Night fell over the SEAL training base, thick clouds swallowing the last light of day and leaving only the faint glow of the moon reflecting off distant water. Lieutenant Sarah Falcon Turner tightened the straps on her gear, her movements methodical and precise. The instructors had announced the night operation earlier, a high-stakes simulation of an extraction mission under hostile conditions. Fatigue from the day's obstacle courses weighed on every candidate, but Falcon welcomed the darkness. It was her element. The shadows where observation and patience mattered as much as strength. The SEAL candidates gathered at the edge of the wooded training area. Whispers rippled through the group, nerves obvious in their tense postures. Some candidates fidgeted with their weapons. Others stared blankly ahead, trying to mask anxiety. Falcon observed silently, taking note of each personality, each weakness, each hesitation. A rush of adrenaline mingled with focus. This mission would test everything, not just physical ability, but intuition, planning, and composure under pressure. Master Chief Reynolds stepped forward, voice low and commanding. "This mission will test you beyond your limits. You'll navigate through unfamiliar terrain, locate a simulated hostage, and extract them without triggering alarms. Success demands observation, patience, and adaptability. Failure will be instructive." He gave a short nod. "Move out." The team advanced, boots muffled against the forest floor. Falcon led the way, careful to scan all angles, listening to the subtle sounds of movement. A snapping twig, a rustling leaf, distant water. She had trained her eyes to catch what others missed, and her ears to distinguish genuine threats from natural background noise. Every shadow was assessed, every sound noted. Jackson, still resentful from the obstacle course, tried to assert himself at the front. "Step aside, Falcon," he barked. "I know the lead." Falcon didn't reply. She slowed her pace, allowing him to surge forward, while noting his movements and assessing his judgment. Almost immediately, he stumbled over a root, revealing the kind of errors stress and arrogance could cause. Falcon seized the opportunity, taking the lead with quiet authority. The team adjusted, some reluctantly, some out of recognition that she saw what they did not. They approached the first checkpoint, a narrow clearing marked with orange cones and simulated tripwires. Instructors had placed sensors and alarms to detect missteps. Most candidates hesitated, debating which path to take, their indecision costing precious time. Falcon crouched low, scanning the ground and measuring distances. She calculated the exact placement of obstacles and guided her teammates silently with hand signals. One by one, they crossed the clearing safely, avoiding alarms. Midway through the simulation, an unexpected complication arose. The instructors triggered a simulated ambush. Blank gunfire erupted from behind trees, accompanied by flashing lights to mimic muzzle fire. Candidates panicked, instinctively ducking or running in the wrong direction. Falcon reacted instantly, her body moving with a predator's precision. She directed teammates to cover and return fire safely with simulated rounds, neutralizing the threat and regaining control. A teammate froze in panic, eyes wide, unable to respond to the unfolding chaos. Falcon reached out, her hand steady on his shoulder. "Focus, one step at a time. Follow my lead." Her calm voice cut through the noise, anchoring him. He nodded, finally moving with coordination, and together they navigated the ambush zone. By the time they reached the riverbank, fatigue had set in. Legs ached, lungs burned, and adrenaline buzzed in a dull roar across every nerve. Falcon assessed the next obstacle, a swift current they had to cross using improvised rafts. Some candidates hesitated, intimidated by the rushing water. Falcon analyzed the situation, noting currents, wind direction, and anchor points. She directed the team efficiently, positioning the rafts for maximum stability and safety. Within moments they crossed, her precision and foresight saving time and energy. The hostage target was located in a camouflage shelter near the tree line. Most candidates approached cautiously, but Falcon's intuition warned of a simulated trap. She crouched low, scanning for tripwires and potential hazards. Seeing nothing but subtle environmental cues, she signaled the team to advance slowly. Once inside the shelter, she quickly assessed the target's condition and guided the extraction plan. Her strategy minimized exposure and risk, achieving the mission objectives with maximum efficiency. During the extraction, a misstep nearly triggered an alarm. Falcon acted instinctively, dropping low and silently disarming the sensor with precise movements. Jackson muttered in disbelief. "How did you?" "Observation," she replied softly, eyes forward, never breaking focus. "Anticipation, not reaction, keeps you alive." The team reached the extraction point without further incident. The instructors observed, impressed despite themselves. They had designed the simulation to expose flaws in teamwork, decision-making, and resilience under stress. Falcon had not only survived, it was clear she had excelled. Back at the base, debriefing began. Instructors pointed out errors, discussed tactics, and highlighted successes. Falcon listened quietly, absorbing feedback but noting their unspoken approval. Even Jackson, begrudgingly, acknowledged her leadership. The respect she earned tonight was not verbalized. It was in the subtle nods, in the way teammates followed her guidance without question. Later, alone in the barracks, Falcon reflected on the night's operation. Every sound, every movement, every pause had been calculated, measured, and responded to with precision. She had anticipated the ambush, guided panicked teammates, and completed the extraction flawlessly. Her mind had been as engaged as her body, processing variables in real time, predicting outcomes, and executing decisions with confidence. Fatigue threatened to overcome her, but she recorded her observations. In her journal anyway. The forest had been an unpredictable environment. She had tracked patterns in the instructor's simulations, recognized tendencies among teammates, and noted points of potential improvement. Every detail mattered. Every subtle cue could mean the difference between success and failure in real world operations. Falcon thought about the nickname she had earned. Falcon, not for brute strength, not for bravado, but for observation, precision, and calculated action. In darkness, she had struck like a predator, silent and efficient, and the SEALs were beginning to understand why. By the time she lay on her bunk, exhaustion pressed down, heavy and unrelenting. Her body ached, her muscles screamed, but her mind remained alert, running through the night's events in careful review. Tomorrow would bring another challenge, another test of strength, endurance, and skill. But tonight, she had proven a truth. To herself and to the instructors, intelligence, strategy, and calm under fire could rival and even surpass raw strength and aggression. Sleep came, fleeting and shallow, yet filled with dreams of strategy, planning, and execution. Falcon's eyes fluttered closed, but her mind kept watch over the training grounds, over her teammates, and over every challenge yet to come. In the shadows, she was unstoppable, and the Navy SEALs were learning, quietly and unwillingly, that precision and cunning could dominate even the most brutal of trials. Tomorrow, the crucible would intensify. The mental strain, the physical exhaustion, and the social dynamics would push all candidates to the brink. But Falcon was ready. She had mastered observation. She had mastered anticipation. And she had begun to master the hearts and minds of those around her. By the first week's end, one fact had become undeniable. The woman called Falcon was no ordinary candidate. She was a force, quiet yet unyielding, precise yet lethal, a mind honed for strategy and a body honed for endurance. Instructors, peers, and even doubters were beginning to understand the truth. The SEALs would soon learn that Falcon didn't just survive in the shadows, she thrived there. The night operation had been a test, a simulation, a controlled environment designed to measure competence. Falcon had done more than survive. She had excelled, demonstrating skill, intuition, and leadership that far exceeded expectations. And as she drifted into the first deep sleep she had allowed herself since arrival, she knew that this was only the beginning. The real challenges were yet to come. The first rays of dawn crept across the SEAL training base, painting the barracks and training grounds in shades of gold and gray. Lieutenant Sarah Falcon Turner woke on her bunk, muscles sore from the night operation, but her mind still alert. The instructors had warned them. The next day would push them beyond limits, physically, mentally, and emotionally. For most candidates, Fatigue was a burden. For Falcon, it was simply another variable to calculate, another obstacle to adapt. 2. Breakfast was a quiet, tense affair. Some candidates whispered complaints about exhaustion and doubt, while others silently prepared, focusing on the challenges ahead. Falcon observed all of them without judgment, noting patterns of resilience, impatience, and fear. She recorded each observation mentally, understanding that leadership required more than command. It required comprehension of the people around her. The day began with survival drills in the woods. Candidates were tasked with navigating uneven terrain, crossing rivers, and building shelters with minimal tools. The terrain was harsh rocks slick with morning dew, water biting at exposed skin, trees dense and obstructive. Each step required concentration, balance, and careful energy management. Falcon moved through the challenges with precision, her body tuned to respond to environmental cues, and her mind constantly assessing the best approach. Midway through the morning, the instructors introduced a new challenge, a high vertical climb, followed immediately by a deep water swim. For Falcon, both were formidable, but manageable with focus. She approached the wall first, measuring each handhold and foothold. Her muscles burned as she climbed, but she maintained perfect form, conserving energy and avoiding unnecessary exertion. At the top, she paused briefly, scanning the training ground and noting the positions of other candidates. She was aware of every movement around her, every hesitation, every mistake. Jackson, ever resentful, attempted the climb beside her, his approach loud and inefficient. He strained against the wall, grunting and losing rhythm. Falcon adjusted her grip to maintain balance and silently navigated past him, landing on top with controlled precision. Jackson's frustration was palpable, and for the first time, even he couldn't ignore her skill. Next came the swim across a choppy, cold lake. Most candidates floundered, muscles tightening in the icy water, their lungs burning with exertion. Falcon focused on rhythm and efficiency, adjusting strokes to conserve energy while maintaining speed. Halfway across, a simulated current challenge pushed her slightly off course. Without panicking, she canalized the flow, adapted her path, and reached the far shore with minimal struggle. Observers noted her calm, under pressure a contrast to the panic surrounding her. By mid-afternoon, candidates faced psychological stress. Tests. The instructors introduced role-playing scenarios where teammates would simulate betrayal, hesitation, or sabotage. Falcon's group was deliberately tested. One candidate attempted to mislead others during a navigation exercise. Another tried to withhold information crucial for completing the task. Stress mounted, tempers flared. Falcon maintained composure, calmly guiding the group through the chaos. She used concise, precise instructions, ensuring that everyone understood their role without hesitation. One teammate froze in panic, overwhelmed by the pressure. Falcon crouched beside him, her voice steady and grounding. "Focus on the task, not the fear," she said. "One step at a time. Follow my lead." Slowly, he recovered, following her direction and contributing to the missions. Progress. The culmination of the day came in the form of a complex endurance exercise. Candidates had to traverse a muddy, uneven course carrying heavy gear, navigating obstacles designed to test both physical strength and mental resilience. Fatigue and stress were at their peak. Most candidates stumbled, complaining, or pushing through blindly, risking injury and error. Falcon approached each challenge strategically. She scanned obstacles before attempting them, gauged her energy expenditure, and encouraged teammates efficiently when necessary. Halfway through, the instructors introduced an unexpected twist, a simulated sabotage attempt by a rival candidate. Jackson, still bitter and competitive, tried to slow Falcon's team deliberately. Logs were misplaced, minor hazards left unchecked. For most candidates, panic or anger would have derailed the mission. Falcon reacted with precision, calmly neutralizing the sabotage and redirecting the team. Her response was efficient, controlled, and effective. The instructors observed, noting her ability to manage stress, conflict, and unpredictability simultaneously. By late afternoon, exhaustion had reached its peak. Muscles burned, lungs gasped, and minds wavered. Yet Falcon moved steadily, guiding her team through every obstacle, every challenge, and every unexpected complication. Her leadership had emerged not through command, but through action. The other candidates, who once doubted her, now looked to her for direction, even if they were reluctant to admit it. After the final obstacle, the debriefing began. Instructors highlighted mistakes, successes, and points for improvement. Falcon listened carefully, noting not only the feedback directed at her, but also that directed at others. She recorded patterns, tendencies, and vulnerabilities, understanding that knowledge was as critical as physical ability. The day ended with another psychological exercise. Candidates were told to recall personal fears and confront them symbolically through controlled exposure. Falcon faced a fear she had long managed: heights over unstable platforms. Others hesitated. Some panicked. Falcon moved forward deliberately, measuring every step, controlling her breathing, and focusing on calculated movements. With each step, she overcame both the physical challenge and the psychological barrier. When she reached the top, she paused briefly, surveying the ground below. Triumph was not loud or boisterous. It was precise, controlled, and quietly satisfying. As evening fell, Falcon returned to the barracks, body aching, mind alert. She methodically prepared her gear for the next day. Boots polished, straps adjusted, and journal updated with observations. Every detail mattered. In her experience, the difference between success and failure often came down to preparation, not luck. That night, she lay on her bunk, reflecting on the day's lessons. She had faced physical exhaustion, mental stress, and deliberate sabotage, and she had prevailed. The nickname Falcon felt more fitting than ever: silent, precise, observant, and deadly in her efficiency. She understood that leadership was not about being the loudest voice, the strongest, or the fastest. It was about anticipating challenges, guiding others, and acting decisively when the moment demanded. Fatigue finally claimed her, and she drifted into sleep with a quiet determination burning inside her. Tomorrow promised even more rigorous trials, designed to expose weaknesses and test resilience. But Falcon had proven one thing undeniably. She could face pressure, physical exhaustion, and psychological strain without losing focus. She had begun to redefine what it meant to be a SEAL candidate. And as she closed her eyes, she understood that the breaking point was not where she failed. It was where she revealed her strength, strategy, and quiet dominance. The SEALs would soon learn that the woman called Falcon could survive, thrive, and lead in the most extreme conditions imaginable. The sun had barely risen when the alarm blared across the SEAL training base, sharp and insistent, cutting through the pre-dawn fog. Lieutenant Sarah Falcon Turner sprang from her bunk, instantly alert. This was no routine exercise, Master. Chief Reynolds' tone over the intercom had carried the unmistakable urgency of a real-world scenario. Most of the other candidates scrambled in confusion, voices raised in panic. Falcon's eyes narrowed, her mind immediately calculating variables. "This is it," she whispered to herself, checking her gear. Boots laced tight, straps adjusted, rifle ready, every piece of equipment accounted for. The team was assembled in record time, though the anxiety was palpable. Sweat mixed with dew, adrenaline surged, and the forest beyond the base seemed suddenly darker, more dangerous. Falcon scanned each teammate silently. Jackson's face was tight with competitiveness, others visibly shaken, but she noted each strength and weakness with clinical precision. The instructors briefed the mission quickly. A high-value target, hostage, had been located in a mock hostile compound. Intelligence indicated multiple threats, traps, and unpredictable terrain. The objective: infiltrate, secure the target, and extract without triggering alarms. Minimal errors would be tolerated. Most candidates froze under the weight of responsibility. Falcon's focus sharpened. This was what she had trained for, not just the physical challenges, but strategy, leadership, and decisive action under pressure. As the team advanced toward the simulated compound, Falcon took the lead, guiding them with precise hand signals and measured steps. Every movement, every pause, was intentional. The forest was alive with subtle sounds: snapping twigs, rustling, leaves, distant water. She filtered these distractions, focusing only on relevant cues. The team moved in formation, though some stumbled over nerves. Falcon's calm presence became their anchor. Halfway to the target, they encountered the first ambush simulation. Instructors triggered loud noises, flashing lights, and smoke to mimic gunfire. Panic rippled through the group, and candidates scattered instinctively. Falcon's voice cut through the chaos, calm but commanding. "Form up, cover left, move as a unit." Her words grounded them, and her actions guided them. She moved with precision, neutralizing threats with simulated fire and guiding teammates to cover points. Even Jackson, who had resisted her leadership before, followed her direction without hesitation. At the edge of a creek, another complication arose. The water had been engineered to simulate strong currents and submerged hazards. Most candidates froze, uncertain how to cross without injury. Falcon analyzed the situation, noting anchor points, current patterns, and teammate readiness. She led the crossing, instructing carefully where to step, when to brace, and how to move in sync. The team followed, some with hesitation, but all reached the other side safely. Approaching the compound, Falcon's instincts detected subtle environmental cues: displaced branches, faint footprints, and unusual shadows. These signals indicated that the instructors had designed traps or potential ambush points. Most candidates overlooked these details, relying solely on speed and brute strength. Falcon adjusted the team's approach, diverting attention from potential hazards while maintaining stealth. Her foresight allowed them to advance with minimal exposure. Inside the compound, tension escalated. Candidates hesitated, unsure how to proceed. Falcon crouched low, scanning rooms and corridors for traps, entry points, and lines of sight. Her strategy was methodical: secure each room before moving on, communicate silently, and maintain team cohesion. One teammate froze in panic at a simulated threat. Falcon placed a hand on his shoulder, her voice steady and firm. "Breathe. Focus. One step at a time." Slowly, he followed her lead, navigating the threat without further incident. Reaching the hostage, Falcon assessed the situation. The target was restrained, with alarms rigged nearby. Most candidates would have rushed in blindly, risking detection. Falcon's mind calculated the safest, most efficient approach. She disabled the alarm with precise movements, secured the target, and coordinated an extraction route that minimized exposure. Every step was deliberate, every movement purposeful. The instructors watched closely, noting her decision-making under pressure, her ability to manage teammates, and her instinctive anticipation of risk. The extraction itself was a test of endurance and composure. The team had to navigate back through the forest, avoiding additional simulated traps and ambushes. Fatigue weighed heavily on every candidate. Muscles burned, lungs heaved, minds wavered, but Falcon's calm efficiency carried them forward. She anticipated missteps, adjusted positioning, and communicated silently, allowing the team to move faster and safer than expected. Her presence was a stabilizing force, transforming panic into coordinated action. Midway back, an unexpected challenge arose. One of the team members stumbled, triggering a simulated alarm. Immediate chaos ensued, with flashing lights and loud sirens simulating enemy gunfire. Candidates panicked. Falcon acted instinctively, neutralizing threats with precise simulated responses, calming the team and redirecting movement. Jackson attempted to overcompensate, risking exposure, but Falcon corrected him silently with a controlled gesture. Every decision reinforced her reputation. She was composed under pressure, observant, and strategically adept. By the time they reached the extraction point, fatigue had reached a near breaking point for most candidates. Falcon, while equally exhausted, moved with calculated efficiency. She monitored breathing, pacing, and morale, adjusting team formation and speed accordingly. The instructors debriefed immediately after extraction. Observers noted her leadership, her foresight, and the way she maintained control without raising her voice. During debriefing, instructors highlighted errors, but Falcon remained focused, absorbing feedback while analyzing patterns in both teammates and simulated threats. Even Jackson, previously skeptical, nodded in acknowledgement of her skill. Her calm decisiveness had turned chaos into order, fear into action. Back in the barracks, Falcon methodically prepared gear for the next day. Despite physical exhaustion, her mind remained sharp, analyzing the mission's successes and areas for improvement. She recorded every detail, from environmental cues to teammate reactions, reinforcing lessons learned for future operations. That night, as the barracks quieted, Falcon reflected on the mission. She had faced unpredictability, fatigue, panic, and sabotage, yet emerged unshaken. The nickname Falcon now felt earned in every sense: precise, observant, adaptable, and lethal in efficiency. She understood that leadership was not about force or dominance. It was about perception, anticipation, and decisive action. Sleep came slowly, her mind reviewing every step of the mission. She replayed the ambushes, the river crossing, and the hostage extraction, refining mental strategies and envisioning improvements. Each scenario offered insights not just into the mission itself, but into human behavior under pressure, hesitations, errors, and instincts of teammates. By dawn, Falcon had cemented a critical truth. Physical ability alone did not define success. Strategy, observation, and calm execution were equally vital. Her performance had earned the quiet respect of instructors and peers alike, though she sensed lingering skepticism among some candidates. It mattered little. Results spoke louder than opinion. The day had tested her beyond any previous challenge, mentally, physically, and emotionally. Yet it had also demonstrated the power of preparation, precision, and observation. Falcon's abilities had not only completed the mission, they had elevated her above the chaos surrounding her. She had become a leader not by demand, but by action, intelligence, and instinct. As she drifted into sleep, exhaustion heavy but mind alert, Falcon understood that the unexpected mission had been more than a test of skill. It had been a confirmation of purpose. Every calculated movement, every decision under pressure, had solidified her place among the SEALs. They had begun to see her for what she truly was, not just a candidate, but a predator of precision, strategy, and efficiency. Tomorrow promised new trials, new challenges, and deeper tests of endurance. Skill. But Falcon was ready. She had proven herself against chaos, fatigue, and unpredictability. She had guided her team through danger without hesitation, and she had done so with the calm, measured efficiency that would define her reputation for the days and missions to come. The Navy SEALs would learn why she was called Falcon, and by the end of this crucible, it would be undeniable. She was a force unlike any they had encountered, precise in thought, lethal in action, and unstoppable when fully focused. The pre-dawn chill bit through the SEAL training grounds, fog curling around boots and rifles as candidates assembled for the next phase of training. Lieutenant Sarah Falcon. Turner tightened her gloves, adjusted her tactical vest, and scanned the line of candidates. Today was different. The instructors had warned that the field exercise would mimic real-world conditions as closely as possible. There would be no room for error. Every decision, every movement, every moment mattered. Fatigue from previous exercises weighed on her body, yet Falcon felt a sharp clarity in her mind, while others shuffled, rubbing sore muscles or muttering complaints. She moved with deliberate efficiency, checking her gear, memorizing terrain maps, and reviewing contingencies in her head. Jackson, still resentful from prior operations, tried to engage her with a challenge, but Falcon's calm focus ignored provocation. She had no time for ego or distraction. Strategy and observation ruled. The briefing was concise but intense. A simulated hostile camp had been established across rugged terrain, guarded by enemy personnel and booby traps. The team's objective: infiltrate, secure intelligence, neutralize threats, and extract without casualties or detection. The terrain included dense forest, marshland, rocky hills, and a river crossing. Candidates would operate under strict time constraints, and failure meant elimination from the simulation psychologically brutal, if not physically. As the team approached the edge of the forest, Falcon took the lead. Her eyes scanned every shadow, every shift in foliage, every faint track that might indicate traps or enemy positioning. She moved silently, calculating weight distribution and footfalls to minimize noise. Behind her, teammates followed, some faltering, some clearly, relying on her judgment, all observing the precision with which she navigated challenges others overlooked. The first obstacle appeared almost immediately, a minefield simulation layered with uneven terrain and hidden markers. Candidates paused, hesitant to risk a misstep. Falcon assessed the layout from a distance, noting subtle visual cues in the air, soil and vegetation. Without verbal commands, she moved forward, leading the team along a precise path, balancing speed and caution. One candidate misstepped, triggering a simulated alarm. Falcon reacted instantly, coordinating cover and silent recovery while keeping team morale intact. Halfway through the initial stage, the team encountered a shallow river crossing. The water was frigid, flowing faster than anticipated, with hidden debris that could injure or delay any misstep. Most candidates panicked, hesitating at the bank. Falcon crouched low, assessing currents and submerged obstacles. "Step where I point," she whispered, placing her hand on a teammate's shoulder for guidance. Every movement was calculated, every decision deliberate. She moved first, setting a rhythm and pace. Teammates followed, muscles burning, lungs straining, yet the efficiency of her guidance minimized energy waste and exposure. Once across, the team reached the simulated hostile camp. Shadows stretched across tents, and enemy patrols moved unpredictably. The candidate's task was to extract critical intelligence maps, codes, and documents without detection. Falcon immediately identified likely patrol patterns and security blind spots. Most candidates rushed in with brute force. Falcon instructed patience, quiet observation, and precise movement. Her approach was surgical. She guided the team to cover points, silently neutralizing threats and coordinating with teammates for efficient extraction. Jackson tried to seize initiative again, rushing ahead and drawing simulated fire. Falcon signaled him back with a hand gesture, correcting his mistake without confrontation. Her strategy emphasized teamwork and collective efficiency over individual heroics. By maintaining calm and clear guidance, she ensured minimal exposure and near-perfect execution. The team successfully secured the intelligence, moving with silent precision that impressed even the instructors watching from a distance. The final phase was the extraction, involving a grueling climb over rocky hills, followed by a stealthy return through marshlands to a designated safe zone. Fatigue and stress had intensified. Muscles burned, lungs gasped, and nerves frayed. Many candidates stumbled or argued over directions, but Falcon remained steady, balancing speed with caution. She observed natural markers in the terrain, recalculated the route dynamically, and adjusted team formation to maintain cohesion and minimize risk. During the extraction, an unexpected complication arose. Simulated enemy reinforcements appeared, cutting off the most direct path. Panic rippled through the group. Falcon assessed the new threat immediately, identifying alternative routes, leveraging natural cover, and organizing her team silently. She assigned roles. One candidate provided simulated suppressive fire, others navigated terrain, while she coordinated movements. The team executed flawlessly, avoiding detection and completing the extraction. Exhaustion reached its peak as they crossed the final marsh. Candidate legs shook under the weight of gear. Bodies trembled from cold, fatigue, and stress. Falcon, though equally taxed, moved with methodical efficiency. She monitored team pacing, breathing, and morale, subtly adjusting movements to maximize speed and safety. Every step reflected experience, calculation, and instinct honed through observation and training. The instructors conducted an immediate debrief, evaluating individual performance, teamwork, and decision-making. Falcon's actions stood out. She had maintained calm under pressure, guided hesitant teammates, anticipated threats, and executed strategy flawlessly. Jackson, who had challenged her throughout training, nodded silently in recognition. Other candidates, initially skeptical, now looked to her for guidance without hesitation. Back at the barracks, Falcon methodically cleaned and organized her gear, documenting every observation from the exercise. She reviewed environmental cues, teammate reactions, and instructor feedback, noting points for improvement. Fatigue weighed heavily on her body, but her mind remained active, analyzing variables and refining strategies. Her journal became a repository not just for personal notes, but for tactical insights that could mean the difference in real operations. That night, lying on her bunk, Falcon reflected on the day's lessons. The field exercise had tested every facet of her ability: physical endurance, mental resilience, strategic thinking, and leadership under pressure. She had faced unpredictable obstacles, dynamic threats, and the limitations of her team, yet navigated, all with precision. She understood now that the breaking point was not a single moment. It was the accumulation of pressure, fatigue, and chaos. Success came from preparation, observation, and calm execution. Her mind ran through the sequence of the mission repeatedly, analyzing every decision, every movement, every team interaction. She identified potential improvements, noting alternative paths, timing adjustments, and communication refinements. This reflective process was as crucial as physical training. It transformed raw experience into actionable skill. By the early hours of the morning, Falcon finally allowed herself to rest. Despite deep exhaustion, she felt a quiet sense of accomplishment. The exercise had been designed to simulate real-world operational stress, yet she had not only survived, it was clear she had excelled. Instructors, peers, and even doubters had witnessed her ability to maintain control, think critically, and guide a team through extreme pressure. Falcon's reputation among her peers solidified, She was no longer just a capable candidate. She was a leader in action, precise, observant, and strategic. The nickname Falcon now carried weight, not only for her physical prowess and keen instincts, but for her ability to dominate the field mentally, guiding others while maintaining composure under the harshest conditions. As the dawn broke fully, Falcon prepared herself for the next challenge. She knew the SEAL training program would intensify further. Longer operations, higher stress, and more unpredictable scenarios. But she was ready. She had proven herself in the field, demonstrating endurance, intelligence, and leadership. The SEALs would see that she was not only capable of surviving extreme situations, but of mastering them with precision and calm efficiency. And in the quiet of the barracks, as other candidates slept fitfully, Falcon allowed a small, satisfied smile. Every obstacle, every challenge, every test had been a proving ground. She had excelled. The SEALs were beginning to understand why she had earned her name. And she knew that this was only the beginning of the trials that would define her legacy. The sky was a steel-gray canvas as Lieutenant Sarah Falcon Turner stepped onto the training field, the final test of the SEAL program looming over her like a storm. Every candidate knew this would be the most grueling challenge yet. A multi-phase mission designed to combine endurance, strategy, navigation, and teamwork into a relentless crucible. It was meant to separate the competent from the exceptional, and Falcon intended to prove she was among the latter. Fatigue weighed heavily on every candidate, the accumulation of previous exercises etched into sore muscles and exhausted minds. Most moved with hesitation, uncertainty, or quiet complaints, but Falcon's movements were deliberate, controlled, and efficient. Every adjustment of gear, every tightening of straps, every check of weapons was a calculated act. She had prepared for this moment, not just physically, but mentally anticipating chaos, traps, and psychological pressure. The instructors briefed the mission quickly and precisely. Intelligence indicated a simulated enemy stronghold deep in the forest, with multiple hostages needing rescue. Candidates would face ambushes, treacherous terrain, river crossings, and complex decision-making scenarios under time constraints. There were no allowances for panic or error. Failure would mean elimination from the program. Falcon's eyes narrowed, scanning the briefing map, mentally plotting a strategic approach, noting choke points, patrol patterns, and alternative routes. As the team began moving toward the objective, the forest swallowed them in shadows and mist. Every sound became a potential threat: snapping branches, distant bird calls, subtle shifts in the wind. Falcon led with quiet authority, scanning constantly for environmental cues and guiding teammates with hand signals. Jackson attempted to assert dominance, rushing ahead in his usual reckless manner, but Falcon anticipated his errors. With a subtle gesture and shift in position, she corrected his movements, keeping the team coordinated without confrontation. The first obstacle was a steep, rocky incline, slick from overnight rain. Most candidates approached with caution bordering on hesitation. Falcon analyzed each handhold and foothold, plotting a path that balanced speed and safety. Her muscles burned with exertion, but she moved efficiently, conserving energy while monitoring teammates. Each step was a calculated risk, each pause a chance to observe terrain, team positioning, and potential hazards. Halfway up the incline, a simulated ambush erupted. Instructors triggered loud gunfire sounds, flashes, and smoke, testing both reaction and decision-making. Candidates scattered instinctively. Some panicked, others froze. Falcon moved like a predator, calculating angles, directing teammates to cover, neutralizing simulated threats, and maintaining momentum toward the objective. Her calm under pressure anchored the group, allowing them to advance without casualties or further alarm. Once past the ambush, The mission intensified. A wide river blocked their path, currents fierce and deceptive. Most candidates hesitated. At the bank, shivering from cold and fatigue, Falcon scanned the water, noting anchor points and currents, and led the team across with precision. Each stroke, each step, each handhold was deliberate. She monitored breathing, energy levels, and morale, ensuring that even the most exhausted candidates could follow her lead safely. Reaching the enemy compound, Falcon detected subtle environmental cues signaling traps, displaced soil, broken twigs, faint footprints. Most candidates relied on brute force and instinct, but Falcon's approach was surgical. She guided the team, in silent observation, coordinating movements to minimize exposure while maximizing efficiency. One teammate froze in panic at the first simulated guard. Falcon crouched beside him, steadying him with a quiet, commanding voice. Focus on the task, not the fear. One step at a time. Slowly, he regained composure, moving with the team toward the objective. Inside the compound, the stakes escalated. Multiple hostages were placed in separate rooms, each guarded by simulated threats. Candidates debated strategy. Some panicked. Others argued over approach. Falcon's mind worked rapidly, calculating the safest sequence for extraction, assigning roles with precision, and coordinating team movements silently. Her calm decisiveness kept others focused. Her planning minimized exposure and maximized efficiency. As the team navigated the compound, another complication arose. A simulated fire broke out in one wing, creating a potential hazard and forcing a split in the team. Most candidates would have panicked or acted independently, risking mission failure. Falcon remained composed, splitting her team efficiently, directing movement with hand signals and assigning clear tasks. Her leadership transformed chaos into coordinated action. Extraction of the hostages required traversing uneven terrain. Back through marshes, dense forest, and rocky hills, all while avoiding additional simulated ambushes. Fatigue and stress had reached critical levels. Candidates struggled with coordination, stamina, and mental focus. Falcon's calm efficiency guided them. She adjusted pacing, monitored breathing, and communicated silently to maintain cohesion. Every decision was deliberate, every movement strategic, ensuring that no one was left behind. Midway through the extraction, Jackson attempted to take unnecessary risks, endangering both himself and others. Falcon intercepted silently, redirecting him with subtle gestures and efficient commands. Her approach emphasized teamwork and precision, not individual heroics. The team, once hesitant and fractured, moved with quiet confidence, guided by her observation and strategy. By the time they reached the extraction point, exhaustion was overwhelming. Legs trembled, muscles burned, minds wavered. Falcon, though equally taxed, maintained control. She scanned the perimeter, calculated the safest path, and led the final approach with methodical efficiency. The instructors observed in silence, noting her ability to manage stress, maintain composure, and command respect without raising her voice. The debriefing was immediate. Instructors highlighted strengths and weaknesses of all candidates, but Falcon's performance stood out. She had maintained calm under extreme pressure, guided hesitant teammates, anticipated threats, and executed strategy flawlessly. Jackson, previously skeptical and competitive, nodded in acknowledgement of her skill. Other candidates, initially doubtful, now looked to her without question. Back at the barracks, Falcon methodically prepared her gear for the next day, despite physical exhaustion. She documented observations, analyzing teammate behavior, environmental cues, and tactical decisions. Each note became a tool for future operations, reinforcing lessons learned and refining strategy. That night, as the barracks grew quiet, Falcon reflected on the final test. Every obstacle, ambush, and complication had been designed to push candidates beyond their limits. Yet she had excelled, not only surviving but mastering the mission with precision, observation, and calm leadership. She understood now that success was not defined by brute force alone, but by intelligence, anticipation, and decisive action under pressure. Sleep came slowly, her mind reviewing every stage of the test, replaying obstacles, ambushes, and tactical decisions. Each scenario offered insights into both the mission and human behavior under stress, the hesitations, mistakes, and instincts of teammates. Falcon processed every detail, transforming experience into skill and skill into expertise. By dawn, Falcon's resolve had strengthened. The final test had confirmed her abilities: endurance, intelligence, leadership, and mental resilience. She had proven that she could thrive in chaos, guide others under extreme conditions, and execute strategy with flawless precision. The SEALs had begun to understand why she was called Falcon, a predator of strategy, observation, and efficiency. As the sun broke over the training ground, Falcon prepared for the final phase of evaluation. Instructors would assess cumulative performance, decision-making, and leadership under compounded stress. She knew the challenges ahead would be brutal, but she was ready. She had mastered observation, calculation, and execution. And she had proven that when the pressure was at its peak, she could lead with calm precision. Falcon's journey through the SEAL program had brought her to this defining moment. Each challenge, obstacle, and mission had tested her body, mind, and spirit. And through every trial, she had emerged stronger, sharper, and more capable than before. The nickname Falcon was no longer merely a title. It was a testament to her ability to dominate under pressure, to anticipate threats before they emerged, and to lead others through chaos with calculated precision. Tomorrow, the final assessment would conclude. But tonight, as she rested briefly before the next evaluation, Falcon knew one undeniable truth. She had proven herself not just as a candidate, but as a force capable of surviving, thriving, and leading in the most extreme conditions imaginable. The final day of the SEAL training program dawned crisp and bright, the sky clear, yet tense with anticipation. Lieutenant Sarah Falcon Turner felt the familiar mix of exhaustion and heightened focus. This day was not just another mission. Simulation. It was the culmination of months of grueling physical challenges, psychological tests, and tactical exercises. Every candidate knew that today would determine whether they had earned the right to join the elite ranks of Navy SEALs. Falcon's heart beat with controlled anticipation. She had prepared for this moment every step of the way. The briefing was concise. Instructors outlined a complex, multi-phase operation combining infiltration, hostage rescue, intelligence recovery, and extraction under extreme conditions. Unlike previous exercises, this final mission would test endurance to its peak, requiring candidates to make split-second decisions, navigate unfamiliar terrain, and manage team dynamics flawlessly. Failure would mean elimination from the program. Success would earn the highest recognition. Falcon scanned the map, noting choke points, alternate routes, and potential hazards. Her mind processed probabilities, calculated risk, and visualized every step of the mission. The team moved silently into the early morning mist, Falcon leading with subtle authority. Her presence was steadying. Her team instinctively followed her calculated pace. Jackson attempted to assert himself, but Falcon anticipated his impatience, positioning herself to subtly guide his actions without confrontation. Every step through the dense forest was deliberate. Branches avoided, ground assessed for stability, environmental cues noted. Even the faintest ripple of water or shadow of movement was analyzed for potential threats. The first obstacle was a rugged canyon crossing. Previous missions had trained candidates in endurance, but this test pushed them further. Rocks were wet, uneven, and treacherous. Candidates faltered, muscles trembling from fatigue. Falcon led first, choosing a path that balanced speed with stability. She monitored each teammate closely, signaling adjustments and offering silent guidance. One candidate slipped, nearly toppling into the canyon. Falcon reacted instinctively, catching him and redirecting his footing. Her calm, precise actions prevented disaster, establishing the tone for the mission, calculated efficiency under extreme pressure. Midway through the canyon, instructors simulated enemy detection. Loud noises and sudden lights triggered stress responses in the candidates. Most panicked, breaking formation. Falcon's voice cut through the chaos, steady and commanding. Form up, focus. Move with me. She guided the team through the ambush simulation, neutralizing threats and maintaining cohesion. Her strategic observation ensured that no errors went uncorrected, no opportunity for failure left unaddressed. Emerging from the canyon, the team faced a wide river with strong currents and hidden obstacles. Most candidates hesitated at the bank, uncertainty and fear visible in their faces. Falcon assessed the water carefully, noting currents, depth, and submerged hazards. She led the crossing first, demonstrating the safest, most efficient path. Her rhythm and pace served as a model for others. Each stroke, step, and movement was deliberate, conserving energy while maintaining momentum. The team followed with careful precision, successfully navigating the treacherous waterway. The next phase involved infiltration of a simulated enemy compound, with multiple hostages and intel scattered across different buildings. The operation demanded strategy, patience, and split-second decision-making. Most candidates would have rushed, risking exposure and mission failure. Falcon approached with calculated observation. She assessed guard patterns, environmental cues, and potential hazards, developing a step-by-step plan in real time. Her instructions were minimal but precise, communicated through hand signals and brief whispered directives. Inside the compound, unexpected complications arose. Simulated fire, collapsing structures, and rival enemy teams creating confusion. Candidates panicked, arguing over tactics, losing focus. Falcon maintained calm. She directed movements, prioritized objectives, and reassigned roles fluidly. One teammate froze at a doorway, paralyzed by fear. Falcon crouched beside him, steadying him with a quiet voice. Focus on your task. One step at a time. Follow me. Slowly, he regained composure, navigating the threat without error. Falcon coordinated the hostage extraction with precision. She assigned teammates to cover positions, guided others to secure hostages, and neutralized simulated threats efficiently. Every decision reflected her observation and planning. Every movement minimized risk. Even Jackson, previously skeptical and competitive, followed her guidance without question. The team's cohesion, largely a result of her steady leadership, allowed them to complete the extraction flawlessly. The final stretch of the mission tested endurance like never before. Candidates had to navigate back through marshlands, rocky hills, and dense forest under time constraints, while avoiding simulated enemy reinforcements. Fatigue and stress reached their peak. Most candidates faltered, exhausted physically and mentally. Falcon's body ached, her lungs burned, yet her mind remained razor-sharp. She monitored pacing, morale, and positioning, subtly correcting errors and maintaining efficiency. Every action reinforced her reputation as a leader capable of guiding others under extreme pressure. During the final approach, Jackson attempted another rash move, risking exposure. Falcon intercepted silently, redirecting him with hand signals and calm authority. Her leadership emphasized teamwork over individual heroics, turning potential chaos into coordinated action. The team followed her lead, moving with quiet confidence, anticipating threats, and completing the mission under controlled precision. At the extraction point, the instructors observed in silence. Falcon's performance, from start to finish, had demonstrated mastery of physical, mental, and strategic challenges. She had led a team under extreme conditions, managed individual weaknesses, navigated complex terrain, neutralized threats, and executed a flawless mission. The cumulative effect of months of training, observation, and self-discipline had coalesced into a performance that exceeded expectations. During the debriefing, instructors highlighted her calm under pressure, strategic foresight, and ability to lead effectively without dominating or intimidating others. They acknowledged her precision, observation, and ability to adapt to unpredictable variables. Jackson, who had doubted her abilities repeatedly, nodded in respect, finally recognizing her skill and authority. Other candidates, once skeptical, looked to her with newfound admiration. Back at the barracks, Falcon methodically cleaned and organized her gear, documenting every detail from the final mission. Her journal reflected not only tactical observations, but also personal insights, how individuals reacted under stress, the psychological impact of fatigue, and strategies for maintaining team cohesion. She understood that this knowledge would serve as a foundation for real-world operations, far beyond training exercises. That night, Falcon reflected on her journey. Every obstacle, every simulation, every grueling exercise had led to this point. She had faced extreme physical challenges, psychological stress, and unpredictable chaos, and had excelled. She understood that success in the field was not defined solely by strength or skill, but by observation, anticipation, composure, and leadership under pressure. Falcon's reputation among instructors and peers was now firmly established. She was no longer just a candidate. She was a symbol of precision, strategy, and calm authority. Her nickname, Falcon, had taken on a new weight, representing not only her physical prowess and sharp instincts, but also her ability to guide, protect, and inspire others under the harshest conditions imaginable. As dawn broke the next day, graduation ceremonies began. Candidates were recognized for completing one of the most grueling programs in military history. Falcon stood among them, her body exhausted, but her mind alert. Instructors praised her accomplishments, noting her exceptional performance in the final test, her leadership, and her unwavering composure under pressure. Jackson, once a rival, extended a respectful nod. Other candidates offered quiet acknowledgement of her abilities. The ceremony concluded with the awarding of the Seal Trident, the ultimate symbol of achievement, skill, and resilience. Falcon received hers with quiet dignity, understanding the weight of the honor and the responsibility it carried. The months of intense training, extreme testing, and relentless challenges had culminated in this moment. She had proven herself not only capable of surviving the grueling program, but of excelling under conditions designed to break even the strongest candidates. Falcon's journey was a testament to resilience, intelligence, and leadership. She had mastered observation, strategy, and decision-making under extreme conditions. She had guided others, neutralized threats, and executed flawless missions. And she had done so with a precision and calm that earned her the respect and admiration of both instructors and peers. In the quiet aftermath of the ceremony, Falcon reflected on her legacy. The SEALs now understood why she was called Falcon. Her skills, determination, and leadership had set her apart. She had not only survived one of the most challenging military programs in the world, but had also become an example of what it meant to lead, adapt, and excel under extreme pressure. As she looked toward the horizon, Falcon understood that her journey was far from over. The lessons learned, The skills honed and the reputation earned would guide her in real-world operations, where stakes were higher and challenges even more unforgiving. But she was ready. She had proven herself in the most demanding environment imaginable, and the world would soon witness the impact of her precision, strategy, and relentless determination. The woman called Falcon had completed the journey from prison. Candidate to elite Navy SEAL, her legacy was sealed not by strength alone, but by observation, calm under pressure, leadership, and flawless execution. And in every mission, every operation, every challenge ahead, she would carry the lessons of this crucible proof that precision, courage, and unwavering focus could overcome even the most extreme adversity. Falcon stood tall, trident gleaming, knowing that her journey had only just begun. The SEALs would never forget the name, and she would continue to prove why she earned it every single day.